Morning Grind with Pork Rinds.
Welcome to the show.
What's up, North Georgia? Welcome into the Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Brought to you by your friends at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. Dave Garner alongside the refrigerator mover, John Davis, the big man, right here with us on a Monday. Thanks for being with us. Hope you had a great weekend as we officially transition into a new month, John. Again, it's June, man. It's June 1st today. Can you believe it?
I am sorry to admit that I was sitting out in our oasis, our fire pit area, watching some sports, and I had to put a long sleeve shirt on.
Yeah. It was a little breezy yesterday.
The wind was kicking up, and I was like, I don't know if I need to tell anybody this because I don't want to complain that it was kind of cold on May 31st.
Yeah, well, exactly. No, same deal, man. I went out on Saturday. I was out in the yard trying to get caught up on a few things, and it was, nice and hot, and did a lot of pressure washing and stuff like that, trying to get everything ready for the summer. And then I went out yesterday to kind of check on things, and I was like, man, it's overcast, it's breezy, it's kind of cool out here. I mean, I almost went back inside and put on a hoodie, in the morning there. So, yeah, definitely a change of pace, but that's how it is in North Georgia. Hey, we appreciate you guys being with us. Once again, our Jasper Coca-Cola text line is open at 866-888-0744. Go ahead and chime in and tell us about your weather events this weekend, man.
I'm just wondering how much work you got because I know that there was a pesky guy that kept texting you about every 5 or 10 minutes.
I'm trying to think who that might have been. I don't know, but anyway, maybe he's got it. Maybe he's got a big beard on, maybe a big gray beard there. Yeah, you know what? If I let mine grow out, I would have a beard that looks just like yours because, man, you can see. For those of you watching on YouTube, man, you can see I got some gray going on in here. That's why I try to keep it edge pretty sharp so that you don't see it, but it's definitely there. So, again, looking forward to a great week, a busy week for us right here on the Morning Rant. We've got the John Davis Golf Classic on Wednesday out at Banter. 10 to 1 o'clock will be on the air that day. Looking forward to seeing a lot of different folks having guest on throughout the morning into the afternoon. The Morning Rant will again become the afternoon rant as we straddle lunchtime hour there, and looking forward to it. But yeah, man, it should be a lot of fun.
No, looking forward to it. Talked to Gina this morning. She's wrapping everything up. She's done such a tremendous job. Yeah, her and her team. We sold out. Which is
there
great.
we go.
And so we're going to have a lot of, prizes there that they're going to have a little kind of a ticket item, or I think you buy tickets and it's that silent auction, I guess they call it.
Right.
Chinese auction or whatever. But we got a guy, a friend of ours, Rick Pruitt, who's bringing some memorabilia. And he's going to set up for the golfers to have a chance to buy some, whether it's Braves, Falcons, Tech, Georgia, stuff like that. But, it's exciting. Sold out. And, like I said, Gina's done a great job. I talked to the pro. He said the golf course is in great shape.
Perfect.
And we're just looking for a great day. Can't wait. This is the one time I get to see a lot of my friends from LJ. And so I try to get out there and spend as much time with them as I can because, believe it or not, you and I are going to be from 10 to 1, and then that gives me a little bit of a window. And, believe it or not, sometimes when I see those guys, it's 7, 8, or 9 before we even leave the course because you just,
right.
That, like I said, that's the time we get to, catch up and make, we know what's going on with their families and stuff.
You're finally able to break away there a little bit. So, no, I'm definitely looking forward to a Wednesday. I think it'll be a lot of fun, as it always is. The annual John Davis Golf Classic benefiting Georgia Mountains Hospice. They will be the presenter not only of the tournament but also of our live broadcast that day. So we're excited to have Gina and all the folks from Georgia Mountains Hospice on board with us on Wednesday. A lot of things to talk about today. Kind of the rundown. You're wearing your Georgia Tech hoodie today. We're going to talk some college baseball. Again, Tech playing today at 1 o'clock against Oklahoma for a chance to head to the Super Regional. Georgia already in. The bracket starting to come together there. We're going to talk a lot of football news and notes as well. Of course, NBA, the Spurs, man, battling back from a deficit to shock OKC in the Western Conference Finals. So the stages are set for not only the NBA Finals, but also for the Stanley Cup Finals as well. French Open news and notes, a little bit of everything, maybe even some trivia to talk about as well. Of course, also Denny Hamlin winning a thriller thriller yesterday in Nashville, overcoming an early penalty for jumping the start of the race there. He's been through a lot, man. Family's been through a lot, losing his dad, of course, the house fire with his parents and everything, so it's good to see Denny get into victory lane. And kind of along those lines, John, as we were talking about, one thing that you and I missed, and we talked about this over the weekend in one of our many, text conversations, was May was actually National Mental Health Awareness Month throughout the country. And you and I have talked extensively about this topic in certain areas, particularly with you being a former professional athlete and some of the things that folks go through there. So I kind of wanted to let you expand on that because we wanted to bring that to the table here in this first segment today on this Monday morning quarterback edition.
Well, and I also think at the end of the show, you'll give me a chance just to talk a little, maybe a story,
sure.
Memory or something that'll come up. But yeah, I can't believe it, Dave. When I texted you, I watched a special on ESPN yesterday. Two football players, their last names, I can't remember their first. I apologize. Nealon and Moore, under 25 years old. I think Nealon last year during an off week during the season committed suicide. And Moore, I think just this past March, and it showed Moore talking to one of his coaches and mentors, and of course the coach breaks down. But this is and you and I have talked about it because my kids and my wife and everything, they're just like, maybe you just need to go see somebody and talk to them,
right?
Because I am type AAA, and I understand that, and I'm very intense, and my expectations of my kids are a step above, and I think a lot of parents are that way, but
right.
I think I might take it a little bit more than I should. But yeah, you got it's hard, and we'll explain it later, but it's hard. And hopefully I'll be able to explain it to our fans out there and give them a little bit of understanding of maybe what I went on or what I went through for, the 10, 12 years, Georgia Tech and the NFL. And so, but yeah, you got to, mental health needs to be a yearly thing. It doesn't need to be 1 month. And, and also, and I have explained to you and some to the others maybe, is that the most problems usually occur within 1 month after the season and 1 month before the season.
Sure.
And so what happens is that 3 or 4 months in between there, you kind of just don't talk to anybody. You probably aren't hanging out with your teammates. You're not as engaged
sure.
as you would be at the other times.
Season,
it's that's two sad cases because one of them got hurt. Blew both his knees out at different times, and I've been through that, and I can completely understand it. And then the other one I think went through where he had been released 1 or 2 times, and he made the comment that as long as his mama was taken care of, he could go ahead and do what he needed to do to and unfortunately he made a permanent decision, and and he's a young man that's going to be missed.
Yeah, and there's no coming back from that. And our text line already popping off again. Jasper Coca-Cola text line is always 866-888-0744. Got a listener. It says, we're seeing more athletes openly discuss anxiety, depression, and burnout. Do you think sports culture is getting better at supporting mental health, or do you think athletes still feel pressure to hide it? That's a good question.
That's a good question, and I'm going to say yes on both fronts. All owners are different. I did find out after I did some more reading that every team in the NFL, I don't know about the other sports, but every team in the NFL, it's mandatory that they have a mental health office at each location.
Right.
So I would say that the NFL is probably handling it better. From what I'm reading and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
We all know that Roger Goodell's very progressive, to put it kindly, and so he's going to make sure that he is on the forefront of a lot of that stuff. So, but again, we have a persona, Dave. We're supposed to be this big bad athlete, and
that
nothing
can handle
hurts
everything,
us.
right?
Nothing can break us down. and it finally catches up to us.
Yeah, it does.
So unfortunately, it took 55 years for me, but I'm so thankful that I have Megan now. She does such a great job. And I said this before, but the great thing I love about Megan is that she doesn't know, or now she does, but she didn't know what I used to do.
Right.
She just wanted to get and understand who I was, and our relationship has developed and gotten stronger. And now that she knows what I do, a lot of things make sense to her.
Yeah,
and that way now we can have really good conversations.
I think there's a stigma about folks, especially grown men, like we're talking about, seeking help. I think a lot of folks see that as a sign of weakness. Like, I don't need anybody to, to help me with my problems, and you want to take ownership of that. But sometimes it's necessary, I think, and I think in our culture, we had a couple other comments, at what point does the pressure to perform stop being healthy motivation and start becoming harmful? That's another great question that came from a listener right now on our text line. And how can parents support young athletes after a tough loss without making things worse? Now, and we talk about this, especially with my kids, because, every generation, was harder on their kids than the next generation is. And nowadays, they have these tender little psyches that, if you say anything, they crawl up in a hole or what have you. So, the approach has changed a little bit. And to your point, even from a coaching standpoint, I mean, I know coaches have had to approach players in different ways now because, we're not the same times we were 30, 40 years ago.
Well, I'm sure our parents are a little bit different from each other, but I sit back and think, can I imagine ever going up to my dad and saying, hey, I need a timeout? Dude, that would not have worked.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That would not have worked.
Yeah,
but I understand it. And, with 4 athletes of my kids, you had to treat each of them differently, on their expectations, because some of them it meant more than the other ones did. Sure. And, and they're all in their own right AAA personality, but they've all turned out great. I mean, it has served them well. But, there are some things that I would have loved to talk to Harrison about when he was over at the Citadel, but it was hands off. And then I grew to respect that. Yeah. And then you turn around and you see John Henry, and John Henry will sit there and talk to you. And we just, banter back and forth. You got Julia, who, is the ultimate just piss you off kid, just because of her competitiveness. Oh, yeah. And then Olivia's the quiet one. She's probably more, competitive than all the other ones, but it's in a quiet way. Right. And so you've got 4 different personalities that you're trying to work with, and then you come home and you got Hester, and it's like,
hey, careful now.
Business and
careful
work.
Now.
Yeah. Well, she's not listening.
Oh, okay, there we go. But she might at some point. So no,
she's at work. So there you go. But you have her and her intensity with work and everything. So it's never ending, and it is a problem, and it is something that we need to address, and we need to be respectful, and we need to talk about it.
Yes.
And I think we're growing in that area. It can be very harmful because I've had kids that just get mad at me, and I understand that, and that's when I try to back away and say, okay, I went too far. Yeah,
and it'll be an ongoing discussion right here on the Morning Rant as we continue to talk about mental health and all those sorts of things, because it's a topic right now that's really going on. I think that's one of the biggest things.
And it needs to be yearly.
Yeah.
This is not a 1-month thing.
Right, exactly. And there's a lot of things that, without getting political, happen in our country right now that a lot of folks, again, are I think the root of a lot of it is mental health. So, again, we'll continue to go down that rabbit hole right here and talk about it on the Morning Rant. We talk about everything right here on the program, and that's what makes it so unique. We don't just talk about the headlines and everything else that everyone else is talking about. We bring a different, unique perspective to the program as well. Our Jasper Coca-Cola text line always open, 866-888-0744. That's 0PIG, 0PIG. And this is the Morning Rant. Hey, it's a Monday morning quarterback edition, a Mafia Monday weekend rewind coming up here in a little bit. And, of course, a little trip down memory lane, as always, and some of our favorite moments from the weekend in sports. All that and more coming up right here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. It's the Morning Rant on the SportsPig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Make your home's air healthier. Green Heating and Cooling can help by installing a Bryant Evolution air purifier just for you. Using Captures and Kills technology, this highly advanced MERV 15 filter captures many select airborne pathogens. It also helps improve indoor air quality for both asthma and allergy sufferers by filtering air impurities like dust, pollen, and pet dander. Call to schedule an evaluation. Green Heating and Cooling, your top Bryant authorized dealer, whatever it takes.
Sit down.
Back here on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant, Dave Garner and John Davis with you right here again, brought to you by Foundation Wealth, our friends over in Dalton. Again, certified financial planners and Kingdom Advisors. Again, that's Joel Hudson and the team at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. Again, looking forward to a big event on Wednesday, as we talked about in the first segment there, the John Davis Golf Classic out at Bentry. Going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully the weather will be nice. I think some of this rain that we've had is supposed to clear out. At least I hope that's the case there. And again, just to kind of let you know, man, there is football for those of you out there. There is some football going on right now, believe it or not. We were joking around about this the other day. I tend to try to stay away from it because if I do it year round, it might put a strain on the marriage, right? So I can get away with it from like August to, January or so to the Super Bowl. But if I'm watching all through the spring, so admittedly, I'll be honest, I don't always tune in necessarily to the UFL, to some of the things going on, but my man Big John does. And I know, man, you've been watching that a little bit. You've got a former coach of yours that I know you're very tight with over there in Germany, the Rhein Fire, or Rhine, I guess. Yeah, man, so, hey, there's still a lot going on right now to pay attention to.
I talked to Miss Becky earlier this morning. Yeah, they beat London. I forget their name. I had it pulled up here a second ago, 43-6. So that tells me that the offensive line is in tune. And
there you go.
some of those, believe it or not, are big boys. But you can go to it's actually plus dot, and we'll put it up on social media. But it's plus.aflepro.com. And it takes you over to the American Football League of Europe. And some of the games are free, and then some of them are like $3, pounds or whatever. And,
right.
And I wasn't able to watch Saturday, so I'm looking now here. I'm going to be able to watch the replay of it. But I was kidding. I was kidding Becky, Mac's husband, and I said, "Yeah, you got Vienna next week," and she was kidding, and I said, "Yeah, you got to beat the Vienna sausages."
Yeah, exactly. They're in Austria.
Vienna
Let me tell you.
But I was like, hey, listen, with a name like Vienna, they're the sausages to me.
Well, sometimes those teams lean into their nicknames. Like,
exactly.
We used to play Delta State. Delta State is the Statesman, but everybody calls them the Fighting Okra, and that's because it's an agricultural school, and they lean into it. They call themselves that now, so yeah, sometimes they have fun. Meanwhile, the UFL playoffs are set. Again, Orlando, I guess really one of the closest, geographic teams to us, taking on D.C., St. Louis against Louisville. So again, I know you've been following it a little bit, paying a little bit of attention. I've seen it in clips and spurts throughout the season, but I couldn't tell you records or anything like that. Really.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and watch every game from beginning to end, but it's surprisingly, and I think we talked about this a little after the second or third week. Surprisingly, it's a lot better product on the field than it has been in the past. I think the owner of the league has really put a lot of time and thought into this product. Yeah. And listening to the players that are playing, they have one goal, and that's to get back to the NFL.
Right.
And so you're seeing better play. Now I got to tell you, 2 or 3 years ago, I could find a high school team that could play with them.
Right.
But the last year, especially this year, it's been much more exciting. For me, because look, if football's on, I'm going to watch it.
Right.
But no, the play has actually gotten so much better. The techniques, and it just it makes it more enjoyable. So and I think we all know that it's just another league to step up to the NFL, which I think in 5 years, Dave, the NCAA is going to be the same.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and some of those guys making more than the pro players.
Well, we were talking about that, and there's a couple articles out there, and I might bring some of those to the table as well because we're talking about that. I mean, with high schools being kind of like the new college, the high schools like the transfer portal now.
That's right.
Yeah,
I forgot to write that down.
Yeah,
it blew my mind.
Yeah,
I'm sitting there watching. I said, "Well, I got to get Dave this." I think I sent you a text.
I think you did actually. Yeah,
and there is a transfer portal for high school.
Okay. Oh yeah, here it is right here. Yeah, and I didn't even have that on the rundown, man. You and I just came up with that one there. But yeah, apparently high school sports now. They're in Florida, for example. They have a transfer portal where student athletes are moving school to school, chasing exposure, of course, NIL opportunities, as we all know. 7,000 plus transfers in a single year in the state of Florida. Some of these athletes are attending 3 or 4 different high schools. Even there's some reportedly up to 8 schools. Now we're seeing that here in Georgia as well. Even locally,
I remember
close
that
to
when
home.
Harrison was playing. Yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. So what started at the NIL level at the college has now trickled down to high school. So, you and I have talked about this since we came on the air back in March. Basically, high school is the new college is the new pro, and pro is the retirement vehicle. I mean, it's just, where you make your last paycheck.
Yeah. Well, listen, and this is, it might be a surprise to some. It's not going to be a surprise to the old timers. Look, Dalton used to do it back in the 70s, because obviously Dalton's the big carpet capital. So they'd go out and they'd recruit kids and say, hey, you come to Dalton, we got your mom and dad a job.
Yeah, right.
You go over to Buford. Buford still does it. I don't care what anybody says. And those people in Buford will fight to me every single day. And I'm like, stop it.
Stop.
Do it every single year.
Yeah, just stop.
Roswell won a state championship about 10 or 12 years ago. They had like 12 transfers, and guess what? All 12 of them went to major Division I college football teams.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you got Calhoun, you got you got Carrollton. Listen, you got South. Well, let's don't even get into South Georgia. So
they hold them back down there a year so they can be older. Yeah, they hold them back in middle school, in 8th grade down there in South Georgia now. Mostly.
Exactly, and so it's happened for years and years. But I'll be damned if I don't get online and see it's an actual transfer portal for high school.
Yeah,
I was blown away, and I seriously was blown away. I could not believe it.
Yeah, wow. We're going to keep that conversation going too, and I joke around about that happening in South Georgia. It happens in North Georgia too. I mean, you're hearing more and more about kids being held back in the 8th grade. Yeah. That used to be kind of it was a story that was a little bit of a myth back in the day, although it did happen. But you're seeing it become more and more prevalent now, where kids are being held back so that they hit that 18th birthday their senior year. Because, as you know, John, there's a big biological difference between a 16 or 17-year-old kid and then an 18-year-old kid flirting with 19 years old before they graduate. It just is what it is.
So now I remember I called my principal, Lex Rainey, last night, and I said, Mr. Rainey, I said, did this happen? And now it was known that they wanted to hold me back. Because I turned 17 in August of my senior year, so I was one of those.
I was too. Back. I was July. Yep, I was 17 when I graduated.
But there was a guy that went to school with my dad named Doug. I believe Doug Griffin, and he was I believe he was the superintendent of the Murray County schools. Well, I have an uncle that lives in Chatsworth,
right?
Gary, and they had discussed me possibly going to Murray County. Yeah. And whatever happened, it never happened. Well, my oldest brother was a coach for Noonan County, or Coweta County, but Noonan High School.
Yep.
And they had talked about me coming down there and playing for him. And so it I mean, a lot of this was done without me really even knowing it. I mean, other people were kind of planning my whole life out while I was just having fun.
Right. Yeah.
I was probably out on Highway 62 somewhere having a beer with my boys and, fishing or doing something
You're telling
like
on
that.
yourself now. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. But no, thankfully it didn't. I do wish I would have been held back a year. But hindsight's 2020, and I think everything worked out for the best. But yeah, I mean, it happens, and you've got people actively with that birthday, like you talked about.
Yeah,
they're actively holding them back. And I think most of them now, and you might know more than I do, but I think most of it now is probably in the second, third, or fourth grade area.
Sure,
that they hold them back and then move forward from there.
Hey, it got you to the league just a year sooner. It got you to Jerry Glanville a year sooner.
Appreciate that.
So you were able to get that one out of the way. No, just messing with you right here on a Monday morning quarterback edition. Hey, we're up against our second break. When we come back, it'll officially be our Mafia Monday. We got a hot take coming up from Big John right here as we stay with football, but still plenty of other things to talk about. Once again, visit us on social media. The Sports Pig is on Facebook. Our show, The Morning Rant, is on Instagram, and also full video episodes of the show daily on YouTube. The podcast version of the show also available on our website, sportspigradio.com, and wherever you listen to your favorite daily podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Podbeam, all those Apple and Android platforms. You can also interact with us on Twitter. I'm at Dave Garner 777. He's at John Davis _65, and this is The Morning Rant. Stay with us right here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. The show rolls on here in a moment on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Financial scams are on the rise, and with AI, they're getting more and more sophisticated every day. If someone pressures you to act quickly, ask for secrecy, or request payment through gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrency, stop. Legitimate financial professionals don't rush you or demand unusual payment methods. Before you send money or share personal information, slow down and verify. Protect your future. When in doubt, ask questions.
If you're suspicious of a scam, call the team at Foundation Wealth today at 706-278-0214.
It's time to roll back the clock and relive the biggest moments from the weekend. This is your Mafia Monday Weekend Rewind.
With a man who knows what it means to battle in the trenches.
It's table crushing time on the Morning Rant.
Back here on this Mafia Monday, time for your weekend rewind as we take a look back at the weekend. The Atlanta Braves, man, getting it done 2 out of 3 against the Reds. They dropped Game 3 yesterday, but took the first 2 there. Ronald Acuna finally, man, coming around. I mean, he has been on a tear. I want to say, 5 home runs or 6 home runs over the last 4 games or something like that. So Acuna, they really need it right now, of course, with Drake Baldwin still being out of the lineup right there. But the Braves, the first team, they were the first team to 20 wins in the league, the first team to 30 wins, and now they're the first team to 40 wins in the league. So, again, congrats to the Braves. Hopefully they can keep it rolling right here as we head on into June, man. Already moving right along here again. Just unbelievable, right?
Yeah, I can't believe it. And, it's like we said with them, 2 out of 3. That's going to stick you, at about 100 win
But you
season,
get right around 100 wins, yeah.
Right around there.
That's where you want to be.
That'll give you an opportunity to get into the playoffs. But no, they're playing well. I know yesterday they lost. I think Strider's first loss of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we're getting to see a few more games on the TV. And I'm still not going to do the streaming, but I'll watch them every time I can get them on the TV, though.
Yeah,
I'll have to keep in touch with my buddy Danny up in Chatsworth because he does the stats and everything. So he's pretty in tune with what's going on with them.
He keeps the book. Yeah, Saturday night was a nationally televised game, so they were on TV there, and it was good to see those guys always win in front of the national audience. Meanwhile, the Spurs against shocking OKC in Game 7, really 6 and 7, but 7, of course, over the weekend in Oklahoma City, as San Antonio now will tangle with New York in the NBA Finals. Meanwhile, it's the Canes and the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Finals there. The Canes somewhat predictable, but who saw the Golden Knights sweeping the Avalanche, who are basically number 1 best record pretty much all year long in the NHL, but the Golden Knights come right in and take care of business there, so the Canes and Knights set to go at it. And, of course, today, NCAA baseball, Georgia Tech against Oklahoma. It was the Sooners who got the win last night against Tech, forcing today's pivotal, third game, essentially, if you will, between those guys overall. If you look at the bracket and the way it's played out right there, again, Tech beat them the other night, but then Oklahoma gets the win last night. So again, the winner advances to the Super Regional. Meanwhile, the Dogs already in. Kansas is in. Several other teams, I think Alabama in there as well. If you look at the bracket, so we'll talk more about that tomorrow and through the rest of the week as we keep our eye on college baseball as well. Hey, let's talk a little football right now.
911, what's your emergency?
Bold takes from the big man himself. It's Big John's Bold Take of the Week, only on the Morning Rant.
Uh-oh, sound the alarm. It looks like we got some talk right here as we jump into a situation that we saw with some NFL stuff from that happened, I guess was last week or whatever. So obviously there was a situation. Jackson Dart, I believe, had introduced the President Trump at an event or whatever, and Abdul Carter, his teammate on the Giants, had come out and said, hey, I didn't really agree with it, and there was some kind of talk there, and there's some different things going on right there. You and I had talked about that a little bit over the weekend there, so kind of want to get your take on that, man, and kind of check and see what's up.
Yeah, and Dave, as you and I have said, we're not going to talk politics unless politics interferes with our sports. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We will with college football because of the bills that are going on right now about NIL and all that. Abdul Carter is 100% out of line, and I would say this to his face. Jackson Dart can do whatever he wants to do. He has his, thoughts and of who he supports and who he doesn't support. I remember when Abdul was being introduced at the draft a couple of years ago, he came out in all of his glory of Muslim gear. And you know what? Nobody said a word.
Right.
They were still supporting him. Still, he's a great football player from Penn State. And he went about his business. And then he comes out and says this about Jackson, not only to the New York media, but to the national media, and basically called him out. And I will say this, that stuff stays in the locker room. So Abdul is 100% wrong by calling him out. You got a problem, go in the locker room, grab the owner, grab the head coach, and say, look, this is wrong. Here's my thoughts and feelings, and that's the way it should be. Our locker room never really got that political. I mean, we knew where people stood,
sure,
but you know what? We respected each other.
Yeah.
And we would never go to the media and say, Thurman's an idiot because he, likes so-and-so. You just don't do that.
Right.
And so that's the number one mistake Abdul made. And he should have been reprimanded by Jim Harbaugh. But as you said, everybody gets their feelings hurt. So we got to take a step back and say, you shouldn't have probably said that.
Right.
But, this is how we're going to handle it.
Right.
That's just something that really just irks me to no end, because when you take something out, because once the media gets a hold of it, then all they're going to try to do is make a big fight about it,
right?
And then they're going to bring other stuff in,
right?
But I did see where they made up. Abdul came out and said, I understand, his feelings and who he supports, and, I don't expect him to apologize. Well, you did the other day, when you were on the camera,
right,
but now
exactly.
He doesn't expect him to apologize. So, it needs to be a non-issue moving forward. But Jim Harbaugh, or whichever Harbaugh it is, that's the head coach,
John,
he needs to get that locker room under control, because that stuff needs to stay in the locker room.
Right, and it's not about, and to your point, John, I mean, it's not about how you feel politically or what have you. There's a certain etiquette, and you know this, obviously, being a former professional football player, but even I know this, not having been one. There's a certain etiquette in a locker room, and a lot of those.
You see it?
Yeah,
I mean, you see it every day. With what you do. Yeah.
Right. So so it is one of those things, regardless of, how you feel politically, to call out a teammate in a situation like that for maybe doing something you don't necessarily agree with or believe in or whatever. That's fine. No problem with that. But you tend to handle it. I think the situation here was how it was handled, I think, is probably the biggest issue here.
Picture.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. So
listen,
again,
we've had fights in the locker room, so
oh, yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and say that everything was all pretty, but we did have our disagreements, whether it was there, whether it was at the Big Tree Inn, somewhere, but you know what? There weren't cameras, there weren't the media, there weren't coaches. It was between us players.
Yeah, it was handled in house. You're right, and I think that and most coaches, I think, prefer to have things like that handled that way. So it will be interesting.
They don't want to know about it. You know what I'm saying? They're the last ones that want to know about it because they don't feel like they have to babysit us.
Yeah.
And listen, dude, I gotta play next to this guy on Sunday. So, I've got to have complete confidence and trust in him. And so I got to put everything else aside. There was an offensive lineman that I played with in Buffalo that we really didn't get along with for other reasons, nothing political or anything, but it was in-house reasons with a coach of ours. But you know what? When I stepped out on Sunday, we both had that respect for each other, and we were true teammates with each other. Yeah. And then we went about our business during the week, but when Sunday came along, you throw all that crap aside and you become teammates.
Well, and it's your job, like you said at that point. You're an adult, you're a professional. I mean, there's a different thing. I think a lot of the reasons that a lot of the college coaches don't always do so well when they transition to the NFL is because you got a different clientele. These are not students anymore. True. I mean, these guys show up. It's kind of a first name basis that it's their job. And so to your point, they're not wanting to babysit. Probably not wanting to get involved in certain things like that they might have to if they were, say, a high school level coach or college. Right. So again, a little bit of, and just the context, a little bit more context for those that may not know or may not have heard. But I believe it was a fundraising event or something, I guess, that Jackson Dart was at, or it was something.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And Jackson Dart was
for
there
some political person in New York running for office.
Right, and he introduced Donald Trump, who was there as well, and of course Abdul Carter took exception to that and kind of made a little bit of a spat about it in the media. But then everything was good, and I think that there was some mutual respect. They're like, hey man, I love Jackson, we're tight, we're close, we hang out, but it's just the way it was. And maybe because of that level of comfort, he felt like, well, he'll be okay if I say this, but at the same time, you got to wonder about the dynamic of things like that.
Well, and sometimes I look at it, if you never hear from somebody in whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months, sometimes it makes me wonder, are they looking for attention? Hey, I got to get my name back out in the spotlight. I got to get my name back out in the media. Oh, wait a second. I thought I was the face of the Giants.
Yeah.
Wait, Jackson, I don't know if Jackson's really the face of the Giants or not. I think that should be my role. So conspiracy or not, there's a lot of reasons why you have to believe Abdul felt like it was okay to do what he did.
Right.
And but it's still wrong.
It's still wrong. There you go. So, again, hot takes, hot mics, bold takes right here with a big man himself here on a Mafia Monday right here in our Weekend Rewind, our Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant, brought to you by our friends at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. Dave Garner alongside Big John Davis right here as we get set to head into our final segment of the program here today. This is the fastest 1 hour in sports talk radio each and every day right here on the Sports Pig on the app and sportspigradio.com. Do want to remind folks, the Red Clay Rundown with Steve Newbold and Will Rigdon Monday, Thursday, and Saturday prior to the Braves games, 30 minutes before our pregame coverage starts each and every week as we talk about the latest in dirt track racing, NASCAR, you name it, as we bring racing to the forefront of what we do right here on the Sports Pig. We are the home of Cup racing right here on ESPN Radio. And speaking of Hamlin, Denny Hamlin won a last lap thriller in Nashville the other night. Again, overcame an early penalty for jumping the start of the race there. He's been through so much, though, but congratulations to Denny getting the win there as we talk a little bit of NASCAR as well. We're up against our final break. When we come back, we'll touch on some French Open, some lightweight boxing boxing, MMA, you name it, man. A lot of things going on in the world of sports. And I've got a little football trivia I'll play with John coming up here as well in this fourth and final segment. And we'll take you down memory lane with a little bit more of the mental health talk that we talked about as well in the first segment. All that and more coming up right here on this Monday edition of the Morning Rant, right here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
When you get hurt from an accident, it can feel like no one is listening to you. The insurance company talks over you. The bills keep coming. It's like the pain and inconvenience doesn't even matter to them. But your story does matter. And here at Geiger Legal, we will make sure your story is heard loud and clear. My name is Casey Geiger, and my firm stands up for people who have been wronged through someone else's negligence. Let us tell your story. Let us get the justice you deserve, and let's start today.
Call Geiger Legal Group at 833-HELP-GLG. That's 833-HELP-GLG, and let us tell your story today.
Chopping it up on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant alongside the big man, John Davis. I'm Dave Garner, the professor, with you right here, being brought to you by Foundation Wealth. A big event on Wednesday, as we mentioned earlier in the show, the John Davis Golf Classic, benefiting the Georgia Mountains Hospice, a great organization. Gina Penley and her team do a wonderful job. Cannot wait to relink with Gina on Wednesday, and the crew. It's been a while, admittedly. I hate to say this, but it's been a minute. Ever since my years of getting out of TV and doing other things, I haven't had the opportunity over the last several years to be at one of the golf tours. So I'm excited to be able to get back there, man, and reconnect, and looking forward to just what's going to be a phenomenal day. I know it.
Yeah, Rob's done a great job with the course. He says it's in great shape. Of course, Gina's done a wonderful job. I always kid her because I tell her how it runs itself. We know.
Hey,
it
now
doesn't,
leave her alone.
But,
now she's
I know. So
she's
we know
amazing.
it doesn't. So her team does such a great job, especially on the day of the tournament. There's a lot going on tomorrow and then Wednesday morning. You and I will be there. Around 9:00 Wednesday morning. But
sure. Great
job. The thing that pleases me more than anything, Dave, I think, are the players that come in and play. I think we probably have about 80% of them are repeat and probably played in over 30 of them.
Right.
You know what? They don't even care about the golf. They're given to a great cause. That's what they care about more than anything.
Sure.
About hospice, and then just the fellowship we have all day long. When just going out and just rekindling relationships and friendships and stuff like that. So gives us a great a reason to get together. And we're not going to make the most money of anybody. I think we probably average pulling in around $35,000, which for North Georgia is pretty good.
Yeah,
and I think that's put us really over about 1.1 million over the 33 tournaments that we've had. So, and the fact that it's going straight to the patients is what's the most important thing to myself, and I know it is for Gina as well. But going to be another great day, and looking forward to it. And just spending 3 hours with you and getting to interview some neat people and enjoy it. So
we talk about going down memory lane with the refrigerator mover. We're going to be doing that all day on Wednesday, and also with a lot of other special guests as well. So I'm looking forward to the show, selfishly, in addition to the golf tournament, because I think we're going to have a great show. So we encourage people to tune in that day, certainly. And if you can't catch it live from 10 to 1, certainly catch the YouTube version later on in the evening there, or one of the podcast versions. But we're going to be live on location at Bentry Golf Club on Wednesday for the John Davis Classic. Not sure. I was kind of flipping around over the weekend, some different things. Obviously, the French Open. My wife's a big tennis fan. This coming weekend is going to be the finals. But again, Djokovic knocked out by Fonseca, the younger guy there. I believe he's 19 years old. And, a 5-hour marathon match there. Coco Gauff also eliminated. So some of the bigger names bowing out here earlier on in the French Open. So it definitely might be a kind of a different look when we get to the finals by the time we get there this weekend.
Changing of the guard. It almost gave that feel from the press conference, because, Djokovic was very impressed with that young man that beat him.
Right.
And it almost gave you the feel of, maybe this is the I don't want to admit it right now,
right?
But you might be seeing the future of tennis.
Exactly. So it's always fun to see some new blood in there. Meanwhile, I turned the TV over. I guess it was Saturday night, and I was about to go to bed. I kind of stayed up a little bit later, and I watched the WBA lightweight women's title between Stephanie Hahn and Holly Holm, a name from the past who had spent some time in UFC and what have you. It was Hahn who retained her title over Holly Holm. Holm, again, the crowd was kind of cheering for her, kind of more of in the twilight of her career, but again, that was the WBA lightweight women's title playing out there on Saturday. Hey, I did some digging over the weekend, and there were some things that were popping up. John, here's a question for you, and I'm putting you on the spot because I haven't even said anything to you about this. Do you remember the last player in the NFL to wear a single bar face mask? Do you remember who that was?
And
it was a punter.
It wasn't Joe Theismann, I don't think.
No, it wasn't Joe Theismann.
Was it a kicker?
It was a punter. Yeah,
a punter. It wasn't Rick Roby.
No,
if it was a punter, Paul McGuire. It wasn't him.
And this guy's a little bit more obscure. I had not
Garo
really.
Premium.
Well, good guess, but no, it's a guy by the name of Scott Player. And Scott Player had kicked at Florida State, came out of college.
Was that before they became a men's school, or
that might have been while they were still a women's school? I guess I don't know. But
that's
anyway,
for my friend John Michaelides
yes,
out there.
I knew where you were going with that one right there, partner, for sure. But no, this guy by the name of Scott Player, and it just kind of randomly popped. There were some things that popped up on social media this weekend, and I thought it was kind of interesting. But apparently, I think 2004 is when the NFL. Came up with the rule no more single bar face mask. But
did he get his nose broke?
Well, no, he didn't get his nose broke, but they grandfathered him in. There was a grandfather clause there, and they said, well, since this Scott Player guy is almost 40 years old and he's still in the league, we're not going to make him change. So he was able to kick. But the funny thing about him is he didn't come right out of college and punt. Like, there were several years between the time he left Florida State and he got picked up. So he was kind of a guy that was already, close to 30 before he ever started kicking for, the Cleveland Browns and eventually the Arizona Cardinals as well. But yeah, he's out there. But the funny thing about you'll have to look it up, you guys out there on social media, it wasn't like one of the Joe Theismann like single bar that kind of went across your face. Like this thing was like it hung down below his chin. Like, there wasn't any part of that single bar that covered his face at all. I mean, his face was fully exposed, like it was pointless to even have the single bar on there. But I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway.
That's a good one.
Yeah, some random questions right there. Hey, time to go down memory lane here as we talk to the refrigerator mover right here and kind of revisit something that we talked about a little bit earlier in the program.
It's time to take a stroll down memory lane with the refrigerator mover.
So we were talking in the first segment about mental health, and we spent a good bit of time there, and it's going to be an ongoing conversation that we have right here on the Morning Rant. But, John, you've got some personal experience going back to our listener that texted in earlier about some of the different things, as far as mental health and the way that parents handle things with kids and players and the added pressure and so forth. But you had some experience with this back in the day, even before it was ever being talked about.
Yeah, I think it helps people to understand a little bit more when I kind of put it, I guess, in this context. Imagine if you're out there working, you got a 9-to-5 job. Imagine having to go to work every single day, knowing that could be your last day on the job.
Yeah,
every
a lot of pressure.
Single day. I've seen guys cut on game day. I've seen them cut after a game. And so the way I try to explain to people, because I was an 11th rounder and, we didn't make any money as 11th rounders. You're more likely to get cut before you are Bruce Smith. Somebody like that.
Right.
But that was my life for 8 years. In the NFL, I literally went into work every day thinking that this could be my last day. Now, Imagine what that does to your loved ones.
Yeah.
Imagine what Hester had to live with every single day. Sure. Fortunately, the kids weren't, that old yet, or Olivia and Harrison, who were born while I played. But just imagine, the I don't want to say pain, but it's almost like torture. Just imagine how, and you know what? We weren't mature enough, or I wasn't mature enough to know how to handle that.
Yeah.
And so you talk about being able to have, that's when I needed somebody to talk to.
Right.
You know? And
exactly.
so, but you had to rely on your teammates. My teammates in Houston were great, the offensive line, because they're like, dude, you're not going anywhere. You're going to be here. You can play every position, and I'm like, well, I can't, I don't know that. And then I get to Buffalo, and it's a whole different locker room. You make, I'm not going to say they weren't friends, but a couple of, my closest friends were, like Daryl Talley or Andre Reed or Thurman Thomas or, people like that on the other side of the ball. And so, you were able to talk to them. It was a lot more competitive and cutthroat in Buffalo than it was in Houston, because that's when they had a great offensive line in Houston. They got two Hall of Famers
and Matthews and all the guys.
Dean Steinkühler was one of the greatest linemen in college football. So that's not taking anything away from Buffalo. It was just a different feel. But you go into work every single day thinking that this can be your last day, because I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw people next to me get cut, and I'm like thinking, damn, okay. And then you go home and you go back to work. Is that going to be me? So it is real. Mental health is a yearly problem. It shouldn't be a 1 month problem, or we shouldn't dedicate 1 month to it. We need to dedicate the whole year. I'm glad people are doing better. I am going to check in with Georgia Tech to see if they offer, assistance, which I think they do, but I'm not for sure. And it's when you look at me and say, man, it's one intense dude. Well, guess what? Look what I had to go through.
Right.
And I'm not making it. Look, Dave, I'm not making excuses. You know that. It's just that's the reality of an 11th round draft choice.
Yes, absolutely.
Your first 3 rounds are pretty much guaranteed one contract.
Right.
Unless you just completely screw
bomb
it up.
Yeah, exactly.
But an 11th rounder, you're not guaranteed dinner the next day.
Right, yeah. That's a lot of pressure right there, no doubt about it. Yep. Great thoughts right here by the refrigerator mover right here on a Monday morning quarterback as we head down memory lane. The Jasper Coca-Cola text line's been popping off a little bit. We're almost out of time, so we don't have a lot of time to get to it right here. But one of the comments was that John used to say that the media should not be allowed in the locker room so soon after the game when emotions are too high. That goes back to the Abdul Carter Jackson Dart conversation we had in the last segment right there. But your thoughts right here on that too as we wrap up.
Yeah, you need a little bit more time. We know that that's not going to happen. Cam Newton was on after the Super Bowl, 8 or 10 years ago, and just made a complete ass out of himself.
Right.
And so you shouldn't, the only people that would be the head coaches. And then I think but you know what? If you give him a 15-minute break quickly, then what's TV going to do? You're losing 15 minutes of prime time. And the 15 minutes we have found out that's enough to get a drink, to just kind of sit down, wipe your face off, and get composed.
Yep, I love it.
But it's not going to happen.
Exactly. No, we all know that's not going to happen right there, because especially in a day and age now where, people want the accessibility and the immediacy of everything, right? Got to have it now. They want to get that quick comment and shove a mic in someone's face right away there. And then we wonder why we get some of the answers we get. Yeah.
That's you.
That ain't me. That ain't me now. Come on now. Oh, my goodness gracious. Hey, Big John, thanks for bringing it right here on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the show. We will see you on Wednesday, big man, live and in person over there at Banter Golf Club for the John Davis Golf Classic. Looking forward to it.
Can't wait to see you, man. Thanks a lot.
There we go. That's going to wrap things up for this edition of the program. As always, again, visit us on social media. The Morning Rant on Instagram. You can also catch full video episodes of the show daily on YouTube. The podcast version of our show is available every day on our website, sportspigradio.com, and also wherever you listen to your favorite daily podcast on all Apple and Android platforms. You can also interact with us on Twitter as well. I'm at Dave Garner 777, and he's at John Davis _65. Big man, what you got?
Go Rhine Fire.
Oh, there we go. And go Jackets today as well.
Jackets at 1 o'clock, yes.
1 o'clock against Oklahoma, trying to advance to the Super Regional. Hey, our buddy Chuck Oliver's up next with Southern Sports Today, the king of college football, with you right here. As always, we wrap up every day by saying, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. We'll see you tomorrow morning right here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia, on the Sports Pig app, and online at sportspigradio.com.
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, where hot takes meet hot mics.